Paul DePodesta's intro interview for the Colorado Rockies just continues to show Jimmy Haslam's incompetence.
Yeah, and the national media is freaking insane too. What does it take for a head coach to win, Noah? Does it take the perfect alignment, the perfect team, personnel that's suited perfectly to the coach, or maybe he makes use of what he has? What do you think?
Well, I know where you're going with this, obviously, because you're teeing up the discussion that we're having today. Um, but it's the ability to adapt specifically in the NFL. I get it in college when you're recruiting to your system and whatnot, but when it's the NFL and you get a guy that is, say, Lamar Jackson, look at Harbaugh, for example, who adapted his whole scheme to fit a completely different prototype of quarterback like Lamar Jackson from Joe Flacco at the time. I mean, yeah, you have to have the ability to adapt as a head coach in the NFL. And I know you agree with me too.
I do, yeah. I think adaptability is what's key here. And the fact that there are people claiming that NFL coaches need a specific system quarterback or this or that to be successful, I think means that you're a failure as an NFL coach. I'm going to be frank about that.
Yeah, let's roll this back a little bit and let's play the clip to give context to the conversation that we are already starting. And this comes from Dan Orlovsky. This originated on ESPN NFL Live before the Monday night game, and it has just continued to spiral into a media storm of sense. Let me play you the first clip.
Dan, as the Giants start to look forward now, who should they be looking out for as a new head coach? What qualities should this person have?
Well, the number one name that I would pay attention to if I were the Giants is what happens in Cleveland with Kevin Stefanski. If I could handpick a guy,
Hmm.
it would be Stefanski. He's an outstanding coach, two-time coach of the year. I understand people in Cleveland are like, this guy can't coach. There's a lot of empirical data we would say otherwise. This is a difficult spot for the Giants. I really believe that because there's no question you need to get a guy that's going to bring the best out of Jaxson Dart, obviously. But it's also when the Giants have been at their best, it's been under like a coach like a Parcells or a Tom Coughlin,
Yeah.
a defensive-minded, hard-nosed, disciplinarian, tough. It fits the culture. It's not just offensive-centric. So it's trying to find the balance. I would go Kevin Stefanski. I would go Jesse Minter, the defensive coordinator of the Chargers.
Ooh.
I would entertain John Gruden and maybe Matt Nagy, but Kansas City. But I would pay attention to see what's going on in Cleveland.
I want to let you rip in first. You asked me the first question, so go ahead, poke some holes in Dan's horrible take that he put on national television.
First of all, I want to say that I'm actually a big Dan Orlovsky fan. I think he normally has very solid takes, especially for some of the people over at ESPN that give ridiculous takes all the time. I'm a big fan of Dan Orlovsky. I think he's missed the mark here, though. First of all, I've ripped into you plenty about this two-time coach of the year thing. Like, we've got to let that go. That's not doing anything, and we're looking at past performance. The reality is, Stefanski probably would go on to be a decent coach for a year or two somewhere, but he doesn't adapt. That's the biggest issue that we've seen with him. He doesn't adapt in game. He doesn't adapt to the players on his roster. You can't have a perfect sunshine and rainbows roster that's perfectly suited for his coaching style. You've said it at the rip, you've gotta be adaptable, and I don't wanna go down this argument once again, but a good example is Mike Tomlin in Pittsburgh. He consistently gets performance out of players and a team that you don't expect it from. Yes, are they mediocre and they go on to have a winning record but barely and exit in the first round of the playoffs? Yes to all of the above, but I think it gives you a good example of a coach that, can coach, period. Coach his men, be a leader of men. Whereas Stefanski, there's so many excuses that I've heard at his time in Cleveland. Yes, he had a few good years. Yes, those were great years. But the off years, it's somebody else's fault. It's not the right quarterback. It's not this. It's not that. It feels like it's a constant excuse one after another. And don't forget that this man is stubborn as hell. We're still going with Gabriel because he doesn't wanna admit he's wrong. And
Can I stop you there for a second? Because you're
please.
playing into my point. You're rambling a little bit. So give me some screen time, damn it.
Okay.
Um, Kevin Stefanski had the ability to hang his hat on Jaxson Dart. They had top 40 visits with Jaxson Dart. They had all of the different our coaching staff had their hands on Jaxson Dart at the Senior Bowl. So to say Kevin Stefanski is a good fit because he'd do a good job with Jaxson Dart, which was part of Dan's take as he mumbled through that whole thing, um, it makes no sense to me because he decided the short quarterback from Oregon was his guy. And that's totally fine. If that's your guy, that's your guy. But we have not seen it yet. We have not seen a single thing from Dylan Gabriel yet that points to Kevin Stefanski knowing what the hell he's talking about with quarterback. So why would they, the Giants, mind you, be the ones that want to bring him in to try to manipulate and make Jaxson Dart the best quarterback possible for that franchise? He didn't even want him in the first place. We could have had him if we wanted to. For
Yeah,
ah,
I mean, tell me this, what exactly does Kevin Stefanski bring? If you say it's an offensive mindset, this is a man who has now twice given up play calling because he can't hack it. If you say it's overall leadership, this is a man that suffers in-game decisions, calls timeouts at the wrong time. Like, I'm really not sure what he brings ahead of somebody else. Like, we're skipping over guys like Brian Flores who deserve a real opportunity in this league to be a head coach for a guy that it hasn't been demonstrated.
let's move forward because Dan Orlovsky continued to double down on this take in local Cleveland media on the afternoon drive on 92.3 The Fan. There's two separate clips here. I may play them in succession with each other because of the fact that he kind of reiterates some of it, but I want to show the whole picture of what he was saying to the local Cleveland fan base before we continue to dig in and rip into what is, in both of our opinions, I think an abysmal take.
I'll take this stance. I think Kevin Stefanski's a really good coach. Obviously, Cleveland is in a situation where they're going to need to get a quarterback. I have no idea what the contract situation is with Deshaun and what the dead cap space all is and how does that hinder. I think he's a really good coach, and that doesn't mean that he has to stay in Cleveland. I think you need a type of quarterback that fits with his scheme the best, no question. And so if that's somebody in the draft that – like if Ty Simpson from Alabama and is available and Cleveland wants to take him, he's the perfect stylistic quarterback for Kevin. So I would say keep him. But I also understand where you could be a good coach and it's kind of run its course in a certain location. You know, and so I think that when he gets competent quarterback play, he wins a lot of games. And I understand that there's been losses, but you know, the year that he had Baker and Baker was healthy, they won 11 games. They won a playoff game in a year where he had to go through 5 quarterbacks. But, you know, Joe Flacco, certainly on the back end of his career, was still competent quarterback and playing at a competent level. They won 11 games. And so those other years when it's been this revolving door of guys, none of those other guys have gone on to play good football. There was a moment when Jameis did for a brief moment, but it's not like the guys that he had in Cleveland that weren't Baker and Joe played. Stefanski struggled with them. Those guys have gone on to somewhere else and played at a really high level outside of Joe this year. And everyone that wants to bring that argument to me, they got different animals in Cincinnati on the perimeter. So
Can I dive in real quick? Do you care? Because there's a couple
No,
things I want to
please.
bring up. The first thing is the scheme fit thing that we have been beating since the episode started. Ty Simpson could be the greatest scheme fit for him in the entire world. That's fantastic, but we have had quarterbacks that maybe we could, agree with, maybe not butt heads with. Baker Mayfield, an example, and not cause issues with, and that is a detriment to Kevin Stefanski. He also brings up quarterbacks not doing good elsewhere. The only two real examples we have is Baker Mayfield and Joe Flacco, who both are doing pretty damn well for themselves right now. And other than that, you're talking about Jacoby Brissett, PJ Walker. What?
Yeah, I completely agree, Noah. Like, again, it's just so many excuses. I'm rewatching Mad Men right now, not to get like too far off subject, but they bring in a guy to head up accounts and he just keeps making excuse after excuse after excuse. And Don's like, "All right, like how many more things do you need before you actually land something?" And this is the same case. Like, what does Kevin Stefanski need? I just don't get it. Like, I think it's his time has come to an end. If he goes on and coaches the Jets, the Giants, whoever to success in the future, like congratulations, more power to you. But unfortunately, your run here in Cleveland has come to an end, and I just can't understand how you give him anything else, how you give him any more power, how you continue to roll with him. Because how can you trust him at this point on the sideline? How can you trust him at this point to make the right decisions for your team and start the right personnel? It feels like it's getting to the point where GM, VP, et cetera, is going to have to step in and say, okay, you need to start this guy. And that's not what you want for your coach or for your team. We're at that point. Like we're too far gone. We need change, even just for change's sake. You know what I mean? Like I'm not normally big on that, and I like that we stuck with somebody for so long. I think that gives so many good things from ownership, good signs that we're not just a churn and burn organization any longer. I mean, hell, you gave a guy like Hugh Jackson longer than he probably deserved, but his time, Stefanski, it's come, it's over. I mean, I don't even know what we're talking about anymore.
It's fascinating that people are putting their hat on him. Like, the only saving grace I could even see this guy having is if they had, and it's so far gone at this point, even saying this makes me laugh. If they had some sort of miraculous, like, playoff birthing turnaround, but that would mean they'd have to go, like, undefeated the rest of the season, you know what I mean? And I just obviously, I don't see that for this Cleveland Browns team, who can barely score 20 points on a good day. We also talk about when he has good quarterback play. We have not seen good quarterback play, and this offensive guru pull good quarterback play out of any quarterback since Joe Flacco the last time he won Coach of the Year, and that's 2 years ago, man. The
And
game might have
again,
passed him by a little bit. Like
what's
that's just what it is.
what's he doing now? Like, why are we continuing to run with a guy that looks awful? I mean, awful. There are people saying that both Deshaun Watson and Shador Sanders would look better than the iteration of that we have at quarterback out there right now. Saying that Deshaun Watson would be a better option after what we've gone through with him, that sounds like an insane take. I don't think it is, man. Like, he showed flashes at least. Dylan Gabriel, I don't know. The Browns posted the other day, I sent it to you, where he was nominated for, what was it, AFC Rookie of the Week or something like that.
NFL Rookie of the Week. You want to know what he finished?
Sure, but before you tell me, every comment on that thread was, "You've gotta be joking, right? Or you're trolling us, right?" This is the official Browns account. How did he finish, Noah?
6 out of 6 in voting. He was 6 out of 6.
Like, my favorite comment was, like, "Social media intern, blink if you need help." What are we do like, are we lying to ourselves? Like, I just don't understand what we're doing as an organization at this point.
When that news broke, I put a tweet out, and it was the famous clown Kevin Stefanski picture. You know the one I'm talking about, righty?
Mhm.
And I said, "Live look at the person who submitted their vote for Dylan Gabriel to be Rookie of the Week," or something to that nature. And it was just like, what are we doing? And it's a prime example of only looking at the stat sheet and not looking at the bigger picture of what the game actually looked like. I, as you are, am just kind of sick of everything going on in the coaching room right now. A lot, largely in Berea, and until we see some sort of change again, and who knows what that's going to be? If it's going to be Shador, if it's going to be Kevin Stefanski, we don't know what exactly is going to happen for the time being. It's going to be the same argument of what are these people even saying at this point? I love how
Hold on real quick, because I wanna warn against something here, and that is letting that small piece of cheese, if you're a mouse, get to you. Like, I don't want in 2 weeks Shador to start and win 3 straight games and we say, "Okay, it was Dylan Gabriel, like, Stefanski looks good now." No, like, enough of those little chunks. We cannot continue with this man as our head coach. And I know that sounds harsh. I know that sounds direct, but I'm so sick of, "Oh, he made the playoffs here. Oh, this, that." Like, it's not enough. We have been in turmoil as a franchise for too long. It's enough.
when what would cross your line back to the keep the Kevin Stefanski? side. I
An
know it's
AFC
not real.
Championship, appearance.
If this 2-8 football team makes the playoffs, you don't want to keep him.
No. No. Like, no. What are we talking about? You have Pittsburgh fans saying, "Fire Mike Tomlin, a guy that makes the playoffs every single year." That's not good enough, period. Even though that would be a miracle for this team. It'd be miraculous.
I was gonna say we're
No.
living in la la land right now, so I just wanted to play devil's advocate and poke at you a little bit. Listen, I love how Dan also mentioned, and then I want to move on to the second piece of news we're gonna break down today. But I love how Dan mentioned that there's empirical data and this, that, and the third of why Kevin Stefanski is a good coach, and he has yet to mention any of it in any of this mini media tour he's doing to combat and champion Kevin Stefanski. It's just funny to me. I wanted to point that out as well.
And once again, like I hate to sound like a broken record, but this is a first-time head coach we're talking about. I know he's had years at it now with the Browns, but he was never a head coach. He was a one-time offensive coordinator. It just happened to coincide with the best season ever of Kirk Cousins at Minnesota. And so he's been lauded as something that I think he got too much credit for, frankly. And now he's just
I don't
been
even know if
stuck.
it's too much credit. I think he does deserve credit for what Kirk did that season, but I think it's more so that the NFL has started to pass him by and he's just refusing to adapt to anything. He wants to stick in his 12 personnel ways with his same offensive line, with his handpicked quarterback, with this play that he knows will work, and it's just not it anymore for the
Like,
current
throw him behind
modern
the
day.
line of scrimmage for every single play, like, screen,
Amen.
screen, screen, HB ISO, screen, like, really? At least we saw something a little different from Tommy Rees this past weekend. I'm not saying it was good, like, we still tried a double pass where Gabriel couldn't even make the first pass to the wide open guy, or, I don't wanna even wanna get into that right now, but at least we saw a little something more, right? Kevin just does the same old thing and expects different results.
So that was actually a screen. I know we called it a double pass during the game when we were watching it together, but if you look downfield, field, because of course I watched the all 22
All
film, it
because the
was really
block.
it was a screen all day, which he would have
He
had
had
a lane and a
nothing but
half, but
green, yeah.
Dylan missed it. Let's move on to the next piece of news because Dee Podesta, who has been kind of like the devil on our shoulder, we're talking about him here and there and everywhere throughout the totality of At the Office being a show. He had his introductory media tour, I guess is the best way to put it, for being the GM of the Colorado Rockies. And there were some quotes about the Cleveland Browns that he got asked, and I'm really curious to see
President,
what you,
by the
president,
way.
G,
President of
GM,
baseball operations.
same thing, tomato
Well,
tomato.
not really, but go on.
He had an interview with Patrick Sanders from the Denver Post, and I want to break down what he said. Now, of course, the Denver Post is a newspaper, it is a publication of sorts, so we have to read it. Eric, I've been yapping. Why don't you read this off a little bit?
Yeah, so, he was asked why go to the NFL and then return to baseball after spending a decade with the Browns, and D. Podesta said, "The reason I left wasn't because I was done or I was tired of baseball or anything like that. It was, I thought, a unique challenge. I didn't have immediate plans, obviously, to come back to baseball. I knew it was going to take me a while to get my sea legs in the NFL. It wasn't going to be like a 2-year thing. I was starting from ground zero. I mean, I knew nothing. So I was going to have to dedicate some real years to it. But your first love, you kind of always have that in the back of your mind. And there were certain situations in baseball that I've just always been really intrigued by. I thought, boy, if that were ever available, that would be pretty intriguing. And so this was one of those."
So we have the guy that was supposed to do our future planning, our main strategy of the Cleveland Browns, openly say he had not a clue about a thing about football.
Yeah, this surprised you more than it surprised me for some reason. Because we always knew that he was a baseball guy and he didn't have experience in football. I want to make it clear. I think he means that he didn't have experience in analytics focused football. Not that he didn't know the game of football at all. I think he watched football and is a sports guy. Um, but it surprised you. I don't know why. I remember the hiring. I remember him coming from baseball. I remember him having nothing to do with the NFL prior to that. So I wasn't surprised by that take at all. Um,
Surprised isn't the right word for how I felt. It's just like the fact that we're being so blatant about the stupidity already in the media after what 1 week of being away from the organization. He was actually rumored to be at the Jets game, so it's less than a week away from being with the Cleveland Browns. What? And I can just picture it now. Jimmy and Dee are sitting on the couch in one of their multi-million-dollar homes, and he's flipping through the channels, and he puts on Moneyball because it's a damn good movie. It's not historically accurate, but it's a damn good movie.
Fantastic.
And the inspirational music plays, and it talks about how Moneyball was successful not for the A's, but the Red Sox won years later, and all this stuff that gets brought up about the success of Moneyball. And he's like, this Deep Podesta guy, I bet he could come over here to Ohio and build us a football team. And we saw where that's gotten us, right, Eric? I mean, it's gotten us nowhere. It's gotten us
Yeah,
absolutely nowhere. I could just picture it now, him getting bamboozled by this whole entire Moneyball story. It's done nothing for us. And I'm still just so glad Deep Podesta is not attached to the Cleveland Browns organization anymore. It feels like such a right step in the right direction.
I have a few things to say on that. First of all, yes, it feels very much like the billionaire saying, "Get me that guy." Uh, but the thinking that led to the thinking that sabermetrics could be applied to football, that's an organizational failure. That starts top down. I'm not blaming D Podesta. It didn't work clearly. I don't put that on his shoulders though. He's chief strategist, yes, for the Browns, which weird role. That's a weird thing in sports, in my opinion. But clearly, it didn't work. But to think that it would work when I've seen the movie, I watch it every year. I love that movie. It was all about getting guys who get on base. You get on base, you move around the bases, you score runs. It's pretty simple, right? That was what it was all about. There's no equivalent in football. Like there's no just get a first down or just football's such an 11-man team, 11 on 11, whereas baseball, it's 1v1 a lot of the time. It's the pitcher versus the hitter. Obviously, there's more to it than that. I'm really oversimplifying here, but I don't know how anyone could think that would apply in a meaningful way to football when again, there's a cap and there's so many differences between the two sports. How somebody thought to put him in charge because he did that well in baseball, that's where I'm flabbergasted. So
And
yes, it feels like a right move in the right direction, but I don't lay it at his feet at all.
Oh, I lay a lot of the misfunction at his feet because it felt like Jimmy was handing him the keys because he didn't know how to run an organization anymore because of all the mismanagement before he got there. The other thing I was going to say off of that as well is you talk about the differences between baseball and football. I think the cap's a great one. Football is very much, I don't want to sound the way I'm going to sound, but it's a man sport. It's a human sport. You know what I mean? It's not it's grit. It's grit versus swagger. It's grit versus savviness. It's the same thing we talk about when we talk about the Cavs and them being like a soft team versus a swaggery team with how they play basketball. Football is not a sport where you can swagger your way to a championship. You have to be the toughest MFer on the field sometimes, most of the time, all of the time to win football games. And it doesn't
Sure.
apply the same way that baseball and basketball does.
But there seems to be this notion like he didn't know football. He played college football and he wanted to be a college football or a football coach. So to say that like blatantly he doesn't know football, that's just factually inaccurate. He does know football. It's just sabermetrics does not apply. Like you can't apply it to the game of football, period.
Yeah, it's interesting. There was another interesting quote, unless you had anything else you wanted to talk about that
No,
specific
let's do
part of
it.
that article. Deep Podesta also talked about Watson. He was questioned with the Browns. You played a part in the controversial acquisition of quarterback Deshaun Watson. The Browns sent 3 first-round picks to the Houston Texans as part of a 6-pick trade package for Watson. It has not worked out. No shit. What was your role? Here's what I would say, and I truly believe this. I believe most of the decisions, especially the big ones, are organizational decisions. I'm not a believer in the King Scout situation where there's one guy who makes every call. The jobs are too complex, the decisions are too hard. They impact too many different things. So I always think of these things as collective decisions. It can't be that hard. It can be hard to get a unanimous opinion on those type of things. Everyone who is a part of that, we all own that. We just do. That's part of the deal. What was your reaction to that one, E?
I actually agree with that take. Like, I don't think that's a completely out there take. There's a reason that there are very few people in the league like Bill Belichick who had full control over the organization at New England. And the only times that he got told no is when he wanted to prematurely trade Tom Brady in a wacky Bill Belichick moment. There's a reason for that. And there's a reason that there's levels to organizations. So I didn't take that as like, oh, that's so crazy. You thought it was taking a shot at somebody in particular, but he's right, like, that is laid at so many people's feet, it can't just be laid at his, and I don't disagree with him there.
Yeah, I've seen the take out there a little bit that he was taking shots at like maybe John Dorsey or even any of the GMs that were here. It really was just Dorsey and Barry, thinking that they're too big in their britches or something like that. That's a saying that I just pulled out of nowhere. But thinking that
That's
they own the place because they have the the chief football operations role, whether that be in title or just typically how GMs function in the NFL. So to me, when you're talking about King Scout, it was just interesting, especially because there was a lot of falling out with John Dorsey, obviously being more of a football guy than an analytics guy. And then you think about who's left, and Andrew Barry has a huge title in the Browns organization of vice president of football operations and whatnot, which would probably put him ahead of DePodesta in the
oh,
pecking order.
for sure, but I think you need to make a differentiation there because I think Andrew Barry's the type of guy that does listen and is approachable. John Dorsey was a guy that made everyone call him Mr. Dorsey and then called everyone else buddy guy. Like, I mean, think of the
Buddy boy,
personality
get it right.
buddy
Buddy
boy,
boy.
sorry, buddy boy. Think of the personality differences though there. I think that's probably extremely accurate that Dorsey was I'm the guy, the buck stops here kind of leader, quote unquote. I don't see that from Andrew Barry at all. And maybe I'm misreading that situation, and I have so much more to go on with Dorsey because they were featured um, on the show, the HBO show Hard Knocks. So there's just so much there to kind of dig into, but I think there's such a difference there. And I didn't read that as him taking a shot. DePodesta doesn't strike me as a guy that is going to make excuses or take a bunch of shots at his former employers. I don't get that sense from him myself, but maybe you feel different.
Yeah, I just don't think DePodesta did a great job at all in Cleveland. I think he is going to do whatever he can to make himself look good, considering he was not the number one option to take the Colorado Rockies job. He was like the third, fourth, fifth option on the ladder, is what reports are saying in terms of
But
all
he
the
got
people he
it.
did. That's great. I don't think he's that good of a sports brain, honestly. I don't think his tactics make the most sense. I don't think they take into the person side of sport at all. That's just a philosophy difference that I have, I guess.
You're saying he can't read heart.
He can't read heart, and he thinks about the stats and the numbers too much. You think Anthony Schwartz versus a guy like Harold Fannin. Harold Fannin, undersized but really good in a smaller school role, who has had a better career thus far, and it's not even close. And one guy had a 3-year NFL career, and we're talking about what, 9 games, 10 games?
Yeah, I mean, listen, again, I don't think that any of his decisions were made in a vacuum. I think from beginning to end, it's organizational failure. I think that one of the problems with the Browns is that they're constantly thinking they're the smartest people in the room.
And I think
And
he's a big part of that. And I'm hoping they move away from that now that he's gone. But
but
continue.
the faith instilled in him is part of that thinking, that mindset, and often we're getting made fun of in that room. Like we're the joke on stage, but we don't realize it. And I hope that some humility has been learned here, but I don't have a lot of faith that it has.
Let's leave it at that for now. I want to hit you with one last thing because you're talking about humility. And I wanted to ask you, have you seen what the bio of the Cleveland Browns TikTok is?
God, no.
You know the meme that's going around? I feel like we've talked about it on the show. And we're the Cleveland Browns.
Yes, love that
Mm.
guy.
Punts, yeah.
Punts, yeah.
Their TikTok bio is in all caps, and we're the Cleveland Browns. Talk about humility. It's making fun of how stupid your organization is. And I know you're leaning into it because you're the social media intern, but come on.
Yeah, I didn't know that. That again, we talked about should we dress up as clowns for our Muni Lot show, and I said no because I just don't want the hassle of doing that. But we're such a joke. Like we are such a joke to the rest of the league, to the fan base, to content creators that can make really good content at our expense. And we're not a part of the joke, guys. Like we are not a part of the joke. And the sooner we realize that, the better. And it's getting to the point where it just makes me so frustrated because, like, is nobody over there taking it seriously? Like,
Not till 2029, man. Not till that stadium's up. You know that. We know that. We all know that. That's what they really care about, not what's going on over here on the lakefront for right now, especially what we have going on the lakefront right now.
yeah, unfortunately, we'll be on the lakefront this weekend. I was looking at the weather; temperatures are cooler. So come say hi if we're cranky. That's fine. Like this Browns team sucks, but we're gonna be there. We won't be cranky. We're always happy. Come get your take. Come tell us why Kevin Stefanski should remain head coach. If there's any of you out there, I don't know if we'll find you at this point. But make sure you stop by and make sure you follow us because we're giving something away.
We are giving something away. We are giving away either a Browns or Cavs jersey of your choice. All you have to do is subscribe to At the Office on YouTube and leave a comment on a recent video to be entered. You get to pick the player. We ship it to your door free of charge. Think of it as a nice little holiday gift from At the Office to you,
Yeah, and Cavs had a nice little get back against the Heat, so that was cool.
especially with all their starters out, too. It was the damn Cleveland Charge whooping up on the Miami Heat, and I loved to see it.
I'm with you. All right, buddy. The debate never ends, but the show does for now. We'll see you next time.